All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo Podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. I'm Patrick Moran. Thank you for joining in. Audio side, video side. It is Casual Friday, and that means I am joined by my very good friend, fellow podcaster. I was going to say fellow writer, but you're actually a writer, and I'm not a writer, so that does not make us fellow writers. My buddy, Joe Yerdon. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. It's we're getting close to it now, aren't we? Sports wise, like
Yeah,
it's getting crazy. I was talking about this with Lance on maintenance day this week that time's ticking down. Like we're stressing about like getting content because we're just like, geez, August, like what are we gonna do? There's nothing to talk about, and we're like, wait, we're like 2 or 3 weeks away from there being nonstop content. So we just gotta make the best of it. But it's nuts, man. I friggin' can't believe it's September, literally next week. Like that's nuts.
I'm so sad about that. By the way, I sold myself short. I can write a little bit. Not as good of a writer as you, but selling myself a little bit short here, man.
Dude, listen, I said it on Twitter a couple weeks ago when you put your rankings out for wings. Dude, that's like I honestly look forward to that. Because I got to know, where your opinions sit. Because I trust you when it comes. There's very few people I trust when it comes to wing opinions. You're one of them. Because I think you and I got pretty similar tastes. So that
yeah.
Helped. But also like I just when you get lower in those rankings and like you kept it from roasting single places one by one. But when you got down to that like don't even go here thing, I was like, let's see if he pulls any punches on this or if he just lets loose. And but like to me, it's all about like knowing your role and not shutting your mouth, but like knowing your role and not necessarily staying in your lane, but just owning that.
I try really hard, even if I don't like a place for wings. I try really hard to never blast them because I'll find something else about a place that I like, even if it's not the wings. I don't take any pride in or joy in burying a place. A lot of these people are good people. It just, and a lot of, and in fairness, Nate and I talked about this too. A lot of places where I have them like they're the bottom of, a place to go for wings. It's not like they're saying, hey, we got the best wings in town. Come to our place. And then the wings suck. They just have wings and I try them and I'm like, oh, these aren't really that good. But it's not like they're hyping up their wings. Is some of the best. You know what I mean?
They just have wings on the menu because they have to, because it's Buffalo. They're just like, listen, we need to have them on here. So
I don't take pride in burying places, but let me make an exception though. Nino's Pizza in West Seneca is, you know what? Let's start this podcast with a hot take. Now, if you watch this show every Friday, Joe, especially during the summertime, Joe's apartment will have those windows open in the summer. He's got the fire department right next.
It's still not cool in here, by the way. It's still
the hot take alarm is definitely going to go off when Joe's talking at some point. You'll know that Nino's in West Seneca, man. I'm telling you, I ordered, and again, I don't take pride in burying anyone, but you know what? This might be the most overrated place in Western New York for food. I'm telling you, man.
Really?
Their pizza, not good. Their wings, even worse. And I stopped going there a long time ago. And then just this past week, because it's 5 minutes from my house, man, I was in a lazy mood. I didn't want to drive to Bella or Imperial. I wanted a steak sub. And I didn't want to drive anywhere else. And like Nino's is right up the road. So I call and I'm very, very specific. I want double steak, double cheese on there. I get the sub. It was the driest. I didn't even finish a third of it, man. No more.
Wow.
So Nino's Pizza, get your shit together, man. I'm sorry. Again, I don't take pride in burying anybody. I'm going off script already here. You got me going. As soon as you brought up wings, you got me going. But man, it's just not good. And it's not cheap either. You spend $23 for a steak sub and a single order of breadsticks, which by the way, we're not very good either.
$23 for a sub.
Well, and a small order of breadsticks too, which by the way, not very good.
The breadsticks, they cost like $15. Jesus. Good Lord.
Yeah. Anyway, to your point, it is almost September already. It does make me sad. I'm a summer guy, and I know a lot of people are getting happy. I'm seeing, in Wegmans, they got the Oktoberfest Sam Adams beer all in full display already. Pumpkin spice shit.
I'm surprised they waited this long to put it out.
Not ready for it, man.
That stuff's usually out the last week of July now.
Weather's still been good, though, man. This has been I think weather-wise, this has been a solid summer, man. And I don't think it's been overbearing hot a lot. I think it's been comfortable. The rain, when it has rained, it hasn't rained during the the bad times. You know, it rains late at night or in the morning. Like I haven't missed a lot of things because of rain. I think it's been a good Buffalo summer.
Yeah, I'm more upset that I was able to predict when the hot would get really bad, and it was exactly when the sling went on
Yeah,
for
when you had your
my
surgery.
shoulder, and I was just like, no, this will be the worst 6 weeks of summer, and sure as shit, it was.
Yeah.
It went immediately to being unbearably hot and humid, and I was like, cool, great. I'm glad that I was able to predict this, so I was prepared for it.
I'm
But yeah,
going I'm going to Florida this weekend, by the way, just for a couple of days.
okay,
Go to see my buddy.
because it wasn't going to be humid and hot enough.
Wasn't going to be humid and hot enough, so I'm going to go suffer and torture myself a little more in Florida this week. But yeah, man, it hasn't rained a lot in Buffalo. I'll say that. In fact, you know what? The only time I hear rain now for the most is when I go to bed. When I go to bed at night, so I used to go to sleep and I put on. I'm one of those. Are you one of those guys when you go to bed, Joe? Do you need silence? Do you sleep with the TV on? Do you sleep with the radio on? Do you try to go to sleep in silence? Like, what's your typical sleeping style?
So back in the day, I used to need music playing at night,
Mhm.
like which people were just like, "Are you insane?" Like that would just like keep me awake because song lyrics and music, like you just get into it, you're just kind of like whatever. But at some point, and I don't know if it was it had to be college. I just stopped playing music at night, and then I was like, it's got to be quiet. I can't go to sleep with the TV on because it's like it's visual stimulation. I'm going to be watching like whatever's on. It doesn't need to be anything good. I'll just be watching it and paying attention to it. And then if it's music, then I'll just be like, okay, there's that song and blah 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 blah. Music plays enough in my head already as it is. I don't need to have it actively going to keep me going. So yeah, it has to be quiet for me. Which I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know if that's weird now, but my sleep's been pretty screwed up for the last couple of years. So I don't know. Maybe something will change out of it eventually. But yeah, I need it to be as dull on the senses as possible when it's time to sleep.
I can't sleep in silence. My wife has to sleep in silence. So it's been a feud for years and years and years. I cannot sleep in silence. I cannot sleep with music on either because then I never go to sleep. I get
Mm.
the song stuck in my head and then I start wondering, well, what's going to be playing next? So that I never go to sleep. For years and years, I put on TV and I'd sleep to Sports Center all the time. But
Mm.
I have not watched 1 second of Sports Center in probably literally a month because now what I've been doing when I go to bed at night is I put on a YouTube channel and I'll start out watching either a Bills podcast or I listen to some wrestling podcast, like a
Mhm.
review of the whatever that should know the shows are from that night, or just like grilling with JR or 83 weeks. Those are things I like to follow because all those Conrad podcasts are like 2 to 3 hours long. So I put them
Yeah.
on. I know I'm not going to listen to them, and then I kind of fall asleep listening to it. But I found myself for whatever reason, not whatever reason. I've always been like this. I wake up 2, 3 times a night. I cannot sleep through the night. I got the weakest bladder in the history of the world. I got to go to the bathroom a couple times. So I never sleep through the night. But, and the reason why I brought this all up, because you were talking, I said hasn't been raining much. I found a game changer. I go on YouTube now and I
Mhm.
put on those rain videos where
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the sound of rain,
Mhm.
hitting a window or the waves from an ocean.
Yeah.
And at first I used to laugh at that shit, but you know what? I've been sleeping better lately. I've been doing this for a couple weeks now. I've
Okay.
fallen asleep quicker and I've actually been sleeping better. Like I only wake up maybe once now instead of 3 times at night. So I've been going to bed every night with these stupid rain videos and stuff, but it's
Yeah,
been working.
because they got like those that's like those white noise machines that they have for
Mhm.
sleep where it's I mean, white noise is one thing, but like they also have like the like the rainforest setting or
Right.
quiet rainstorm setting or like one of those those things where it's just kind of like it's just nice and easy, relax. And like I've never thought once as that's something I should use, but maybe now I do. I don't know. I need to help my sleep. I need to get my sleep more regular is what I need to do because it's just been so all over the place. I mean, sleeping in a recliner for a month didn't help. Wearing a sling to bed doesn't help. So like it's just all over the map. Like some nights I'll want to fall asleep at like 10 o'clock, which is insane because that's not me. I'm always a night owl person, but then other times it's like, oh, it's 5:30 in the morning. Why am I still awake? Like this, it's so stupid. It's so dumb. It's ridiculous, and I just need to get it addressed somehow without using like sleeping pills or any of that stuff.
For people who haven't been around or listening or watching much this summer, Lots has changed. Joe, he's not wearing a sling no more.
It's gone, baby.
He had major
we're done with it
shoulder
now.
surgery.
It's
Look better, feel better, but it's also been busy because now Joe is writing for Bleacher Report. And now you're also doing some contributing work for McKean Hockey as well now. So the plate is getting fuller and fuller. Plus, obviously, Maintenance Day podcast you do every week with Lance, and then you're kind enough to jump on this.
Around, man. Like it's business, as JR would say, business is about to pick up.
Good. Well, that's good though, man. Well, it's better good. When you get sleep. Looking forward
to it.
Joe's sleep is all over the place. You've admitted this on the podcast many times too.
It's got to get fixed before hockey season starts, man. Because like if I'm still doing that, like getting up for the morning skates or the morning practices or something like that, if I walk in like looking like a zombie or whatever, like, that's not going to be any good. Like all pale with bags under my eyes and shit. Like people are just gonna be like, dude, what's the matter with you? I'm like, listen, just leave me alone. I'll have to become a coffee person again. And like, I can't do coffee now. Caffeine's too much for me, but
I have one.
I have to. I will. Like, might happen.
Before we get to we'll spend a little bit of time talking about the Bills. I got a couple or a small handful of like my biggest preseason takeaways. I kind of want to head on them. Maybe we'll get to a little bit of Sabre stuff. Still not really much going on, which by the way, I give you and Lance credit. How you guys are able to put together an hour podcast every week when there is quite literally nothing going on. Because I'll tell you what, football is not quite the same as hockey. I mean, besides being bigger football, obviously, there's always something going on with football. The draft's a big thing. The combine's the big thing. Then there's mini camps and there's training camps. There's all kinds of stuff. So it seems like football is never ending. Whereas hockey, once it's dead season, like after 48 hours in a free agency, it's dead season. You know what I mean? Pretty much.
No, everybody's running for vacation. Like
right. Yeah, exactly.
They gotta get to cottage country, man. Like they rent those things out. They can't just
right. So you and Lance do a good job because again, there's not really much to talk about. So you guys find a way to make it still interesting. Whereas football, it's a little easier to find stuff that you could just plug in. But anyway, we'll get to some of that. This week, starting 5, we're going to do best Disney characters. That'll be fun. For that, though, I kind of want to hit on a topic because I've noticed it. A lot of people have noticed it. Well, people who actually still watch the local news have certainly noticed this. There's been an exodus of TV news people from this Buffalo market that have left recently, and especially over at WIBB, Channel 4. Mm-hmm. They're leaving this market for other markets, which has always happened. Buffalo's kind of like one of that mid-level stepping stones. People come here from smaller towns like, say, Elmira or something like that. Then they come to Buffalo, and then they work their way up to a top 40 market somewhere in the country. So that's always kind of been common. But they're leaving for other markets. But a lot of people, and I've noticed this, they're leaving the business altogether. And at a young age, a lot of people, Alan Pergament from the Buffalo News had an article. We're taping this Thursday. It was actually in paper today. I want to list just a handful of people. And this is all that have left, again, not for another market, but for other school districts now, people. Mm-hmm. Kayla Green, a reporter at Channel 4, she left. She just put something out on Twitter this week. She's not really a household name yet, kind of new to the business, but she grew up here. She talked about this being her dream to be, on TV and doing news, and she's already leaving. She's joining the Hamburg Central School District. Paul Stockman was a sports reporter at Channel 4. He works for Nichols now. Mm-hmm. Mary Margaret Johnson, I liked her a lot too. She was good. Channel 4 multimedia journalist. Yeah. She's at Damon College now. Jenna Cleary Stockman, her and Paul are married. I love Jenna. I've had her on this podcast. One of my favorite guests, man.
Jenna's great.
Yeah, she was great. She was at Channel 7 and she left the business and she went to Kenton. Those are people who are just leaving the business altogether. And then you got your people like and these are all from Channel 4. Jazz Williams, someone else I liked a lot. She was on in the morning at Channel 4. Mm-hmm. She's gone. Melanie Orleans, Channel 4 morning show. She left. I think she's somewhere in Charlottesville, somewhere around down south. And then Gabrielle Mediak, somebody I love Gabby, man. She is awesome. She's been at Channel 4 for 4 years, Western New York, born and raised. She's leaving now, and she's going to a market, hasn't said where, man. Kind of talk about it's Joe, if you still like, and again, times are different now. Like when we were younger, not that we're old, but when you and I were younger, we watched the local news. Now, whether it's Buffalo or whatever, it's Syracuse, wherever you lived, Albany, you watch your local news and you kind of became accustomed to the people who are on the air. You got to know them. It's just crazy now how much this is like the reasons to pay. I know pay's got a lot to do with it. I know you know a lot of people in the business, obviously. Of course you do. The pay is small when you factor in the schedule that they have to work, the availability of these reporters have to work, how flexible they got to be. And, in some cases, like I said, bigger market opportunities, or some that just, quite frankly, they're treated like shit where they work. I know firsthand a couple of them. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on just how many people seem to be leaving this specific market? I don't know if it's happening everywhere, but it's certainly happening in this market.
There's so much turnover at stations now, and like Buffalo, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Buffalo's a pretty decent sized market for jobs. Like this isn't like doing TV in Elmira or
like Corning.
Pick out another small place across the state or anywhere else. Boston, Jesus, Buffalo is a big market, and that it's a starter place for a lot of people is fascinating because this is a kind of place where you gotta. I would think you start somewhere smaller and then work your way to Buffalo, and then if you stay at it and you keep getting better, then you work your way up to even bigger cities. But the way the industry is now, it's a churn because they want to get people as young as possible in there because they know they don't have to pay them as much. Well, I mean, they could if people decided to stick up for themselves and maybe organize a little bit better and try to make sure that they don't get
absolutely.
But I mean, that goes for any job in media. Some people, a lot of people just want to work in media and they don't care what the pay is. They're like, no, this is, I got to pay my dues. I got to do this. I got to do that. I get it. Like we've all been there. But at some point, like you got to respect your own worth. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of people now is that like, they're like, hey, I've been doing this for a year or two, couple years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is. And they're saying, they're like, all right, well, it's time for a raise. And the places are just like, no, it's not. Like, we're not giving you a raise. And why not? Because we don't need to, because if you leave, we're going to get somebody else fresh out of school or, broadcast school, J school, whatever it is. And we're going to bring them in. We're going to pay them whatever we're paying you, maybe even a little bit less. And they'll be happy to do it because it's their break. It's their chance to get on the air. But the dichotomy between, what the churn you see at the bottom and then like, the main news anchors and the main reporters and whatnot, there's no change there. I mean, I love Jackie Walker, but how long has she been on the air in Buffalo? It's a long time. And that, it goes for so many people at all the, at all the stations,
Mary Alice Demler. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not taking anything away from them at all.
Absolutely not. Right.
They're fantastic at their jobs. They're great at it. But also, they got it, they've got it good. They've got it kind of figured out. Like they're paid very well. They're the featured person on those stations. Like I get it. But media places don't want to take care of the new people like at all. And they're not going to pay them a lot. And listen, to schools and places like that are figuring out like, hey, we need somebody who knows how to run a press, to handle the press, handle the media and what it takes to manage, the outreach with that, because schools are starting to understand public relations is a big part of the business. Because you got to cover up, well, not cover up. Well, I mean, maybe in some cases it is cover up, but you got to make sure that you're owning your own message and getting things out the way that you want it to be viewed and how you want to get things done. And they're willing to pay for it because let's face it, public schools, there is some money to go around there. I mean, I'm not saying it's a wash in cash. It's certainly not the case because teachers will tell you that right up front. But in those positions, like there's money carved out in those budgets, and it's going to be a lot more than you make doing TV. I mean, I think if you talk to a lot of the people that are leaving right now, and ask them what they were making a year, if they tell you, I mean, good chance they won't tell you, but the chances of you being shocked at how little it is are pretty high, because I know damn well it was, when I started in radio. Now, granted, this is almost 20 years ago at this point. It was, I was producing like I was producing one of the top morning shows in Albany. on a station that made a lot of money because it was the big news talk station. And again, biggest rating show, of the local shows. It was the biggest, one of the biggest rating earners, biggest money earners on the station. But did that money make it to the producer who runs the show and does all the stuff behind the scenes? No. Nope,
Right.
nope. And like the host, I mean, the host gets most of the money, which deserved. He deserved every bit of it. But he also very much went to bat for me to get a raise because he would see the work that I was doing, and the raise that I ended up getting was to call it insulting is insulting because it was very, very bad, and I was paid not well. It was very, very low pay, and the fact that I stuck with it as long as I did is mortifying to me looking back on it. But that's what that's what it is. Sometimes like you usually just get stuck and you're like, I'm sticking with this. I don't care how long it takes. But for other people, it's just like, no, I just, I ain't got time for this. I got stuff I want to do.
Do you think the shine has kind of come off a little bit of being a TV news or TV sports news personality? I remember there'd be a time where you'd be grocery shopping, you'd be like, oh, holy shit, there's whoever it may be, you know what I mean? Like kind of a big deal. Now it's no disrespect to them. That's not what what I'm trying to say, but also in part because of the age of social media and I mean, I'm at a point now where I think there's a lot of podcasters out there or vidcasters out there that are probably more recognizable to the average New Yorker than some of these TV news people. And then combined with the money, and again, I'm not going to name anyone specifically, or it's nobody's business, for us to be saying what they make per year. That's not our business to really talk about, I don't think, but it's not a lot. Like some of these people, you'd be surprised, man. You'd be like, oh my God, this person's on TV you see him 5 times a week on TV. I work at the steel mill and I'm making significantly more money than they are. I see it happen quite often.
It's definitely lost some of its shine. I think it's lost a lot of its shine because, in this age, if you're doing news, man, like it's really uncomfortable. Because TV news especially because you're facing up, you're constantly going to have your looks judged. Especially if you're a woman doing TV. Jeez,
absolutely.
Good friggin' Lord, man! Like the comments they get on social alone are enough to make you want to scream and go hide in a cave. Live in a cave the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's
there's pressure, to look good constantly. If you gain 3 pounds, it's going to be noticeable, and people are just going to be, oh, you can put on some weight. Look at that. Oh, I can't believe it. And like that, that's incredibly unfair. That how you dress is going to be constantly scrutinized, and that's not even taking into consideration the news itself, where somebody disagrees with the news or how it's portrayed or whatever. The person reading it is the person that's going to take the heat for it. They're going to be like, oh, these guys, they're too right wing, they're too left wing. I hate them, blah, blah, blah. And then, you're getting hate emails, you're getting, shitty messages on social media. It's all that kind of stuff. It's for anybody doing media now, it's a very difficult world. And, listen, doing local news is easier compared to like, being sent to war zones and, working at CNN or something like that, where you got crazies coming out of the woodwork to threaten you, to do all these things. But like that stuff exists at the local level too. Geez, I follow Kate Welshaw at Channel 2. She came over here from Albany, which I remember seeing her over there, and I was like, cool, somebody I recognize from back home's over here. She's great. She's super. She's awesome. But she's very open about sharing a lot of like the nasty stuff that she gets and the stuff like that. And it's crazy. People are nuts because because there's an implied access to a lot of people that if they see you on TV, that means you're their friend, or, they're allowed to say this, that, or the other thing to you. And that ain't it, man. Like that, they might be familiar, somebody on the air might be familiar to you, but we don't know who you are. Like we don't know who anybody is. Like if somebody stops, like, like again, I'm an F level Buffalo celebrity. Okay. Let's put it that way. Like I'm unrecognizable for the most part. But if somebody like sees me out somewhere and they're like, oh, hey, Joe, hey, what's up? And I'm like, uh-oh. I'm immediately like, uh-oh. Like, well, okay, well, how's this going to go? You get immediately defensive because you're just like, all right. Like I'm pretty inoffensive for the most part. I mean, there's some things that like
right.
I can't
I
help
know what
myself
you're
to say,
saying.
but like if you get somebody just to be like, "Yo, Joe," or "Yo, jerk," and be like, "Oh boy, okay, like, all right, let's, how's this gonna go?" And
I agree 100%,
you're
man.
on the defensive like right away, like because you just don't know. But until that person's like, "Hey, let me buy you a beer," then it's like, "All right, we're good."
I get the same exact thing. Sometimes I'll go to like a Bills Mafia gathering or something like that, and I'm like, who's listened to or watch the podcast or listens to the podcast? They maybe think I suck, you know what I mean? Or maybe I said something
Mhm.
about the player that they like that
Yeah.
offended them. Or I just what happened at the top of this podcast, man? I just I completely criticized Nino's Pizza. You know, employee's gonna be there. You never know.
Or
Like
the
when
owner
you
is going to be there and be like, "Yo,
right, the
dude,
owner.
say it."
So you never know. So you're right. I always have that in the back of my mind, and I'm a nobody compared to these people who have such a bigger platform.
Mhm.
I think at this point, like the older news people, the ones who've been around there, they've established themselves, they've built a life here in Buffalo.
Mhm.
They're a lot less likely to leave. Like where I love Don Postles. Where's Don Postles going at this point? You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
Mary Alice and a lot of these people, they've been around for so long. Jackie Walker, they're not going anywhere. This is their
But like
career.
they're in a position they get to call the shots too, though. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it comes
Yes.
time to
Right.
renew the contract, they're like, "All right, well, here's what
Right.
I want." They're like, "Oh
Right.
crap, if we let you go, we're gonna get nothing but shit for it
Right. They're
forever."
and they're the most recognizable people now
Mhm.
in news, TV news
Oh yeah.
media. I think Alan's column was spot on. His quote, he was talking about Kayla Green, and she's just one example.
Mhm.
He said, Green hasn't been there long enough to be a household name, but it says something about the state of local TV news if a Western New York native leaves her dream job for a school system.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
it's pretty wild, man. I don't know. It's just something that's
Listen,
really caught my attention lately.
anybody who does media is always not very far off from just dumping it and saying, "Forget it." Like, I got to take care of me because the money, if the money ain't there, like, listen, we know what life is like right now. Like
Yeah,
it's hard for everybody. It's very hard for everybody unless you're a one percenter. Then go jump off a bridge or something. Um, but it's really hard to to pay the bills, to make ends meet. Inflation, slash getting overcharged by everybody on earth. Um, it sucks. Like every bit of it stinks. Housing costs are insane now. Like if you're working, if you're somebody like Kayla Green or somebody like that, where you just want like a 1 bedroom apartment to live in. If you're not, if you're going to live in a place, in a decent enough neighborhood, you're paying a ton of money for a one
sure.
bedroom. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, and if that's if it's a 1 bedroom, if it's a 2 bedroom, Jesus, you might be paying 13, 14, 1,500 a month in Buffalo for a 2 bedroom. That's nuts. Like no disrespect to anybody who has a building here. Your apartment ain't worth that much, man.
No.
Like it is not worth that much. And you should probably, think about it really long and hard. But a lot of people decide to buy stuff to make that their income, to charge on people's backs to do that. But if you're in media, you can't afford that. Like that's if you're making 28 grand a year doing TV, which might not be too far off for some of the newer people.
Sure.
Um, that might even be putting it light. Who knows? I mean, I don't know what that's changed to, but it's it's nuts because you can't afford to do a lot of stuff. Like, you got to pay for your car, you got to do this, you got to do that. You just can't afford to live on that. And getting a media job or a PR job with a school district, money's probably going to be at least twice as good, twice as better than what you're
Yeah.
making there. Which I mean, that becomes a no brainer at that point. It's like,
That's
do I
why.
want to scrape by or do I want to start being able to have a real life here?
Yeah, and that's why I think a lot of people are leaving the business altogether to go to like school districts, for an example, or
Mhm.
other PR things because
Oh, yeah.
it just pays better. Like it's great to be on TV. It is great to be recognized, and especially if it's something you worked really hard for. But at some
Mhm.
point, to your point, that shit ain't, you got to pay your rent, and the electric company and the cable company, they don't give a shit who you are, or what TV
Yep.
show or what TV news that you're on. And then the other case, too, in the last point here is some of these people just have been treated shitty, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Absolutely.
name names for the most part, but I will drop one name because I really don't care. I got nothing to lose. Madison Carter at Channel 7. To
Oh,
me, she was the best newscaster to come around this market in my opinion anyway, a long time.
and
Her
Jared West
reporting on
like you're
whole
reporter, like a
She was
real dig
fucking
in,
amazing.
do the work person.
She is. I shouldn't say she was past tense because she's still in the business. She's
Oh, yeah.
fucking amazing, man. I remember the her reporting live during the because I was living in Florida at the time, and I had a legal cable, maybe not. I'm on, I can't confirm or deny that, but I'd be watching local Buffalo TV all the time, and during the social unrest phase, that hit everywhere. The BLM stuff, her reporting live was sensational. She was amazing, and I'm telling you right now, she left this market not just because of a better opportunity to go make more money in a bigger city, which she is, and she has.
She got done dirty here, real bad.
Right, that's my point. And she's not the only one. I'm not going to single out one news station over the other because it happens at all of them. Sometimes it's news directors, sometimes it's the assistants, sometimes it's just different bosses and stuff like that. But yeah, she got done dirty, man. Madison Carter was elite.
It's
that
tough
pissed me off.
Yeah, it's very difficult for which is crazy. It's crazy to say this, but it's so difficult to be somebody that actually wants to do the hard work.
Yeah,
which is nuts to me because like you get into the business to do the hard work, right? Like you're not just getting in there to be like, all right, I'm going to anchor and just do nothing and cash in. Just do that. Like I don't know. So I guess maybe some people get into broadcasting to do the most basic stuff, I guess. But like when you go in to be a reporter, to do the groundwork, to do the hard stuff, that is like finding a diamond out of nowhere. If you're a local station, you got somebody that wants to do that. It's like, holy crap. All right. We got somebody who's going to do that. Problem is so many, and it's not a Buffalo only thing. It's not, it's an everywhere thing. I mean, if you got somebody who's doing that kind of hard work and, ruffling feathers or whatever, however you want to put it, that puts a lot of pressure on these stations to be like, hey, you better back off or else we're not going to do blank, blank, blank. And it's like, well, what are you going to, what can you offer that's going to make us, want to call off our reporter who's doing, good work and it could bring awards to our station, like that's the thing. That's why the whole thing with Madison really chaps my ass because she was doing the hard work. Like anybody who does that kind of work where it does make people uncomfortable and it does, and it is like tried and true journalism. And if people don't like that, man, just take a hike, just get out of here.
She was too outspoken a little bit on social media for some people's liking.
Really?
So let's just put it that way.
For some people.
And not for my liking. I'm talking about superiors. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to leave it at that, man. I just thought it was all bullshit and it really sucked for her to leave. But yeah, just generally as a whole, it's something I've noticed more. Again, this market has always been kind of a mid-tier market. People come, people go. It's always happened. It's not nothing brand new. But at this level, as often and as many people, good, talented people that are just leaving the business altogether, it's just it just blows my mind, man. But
I will say in Madison's case, though, turning Buffalo into an Atlanta job.
Oh yeah. Not
a bad glow up.
She's good, man. She's good. All right, let's take a real quick break. I'm going to come back. I want to get to a couple Bills preseason takes. Maybe we'll talk quick Sabres and then we'll get to our starting five draft. Be right back. All right, I'm back with Joe Yerdon. So this is dropping on Friday. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, hit that like button. That really helps us grow this station. The Buffalo Bills play their final preseason game against Carolina. Josh Allen's not playing. Most of the starters aren't playing. For most of the players on this team, I think it's kind of a meaningless game, but there's a handful of players, and Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott have talked about this, where there are still some jobs on the line. I thought it was pretty telling that Brandon Beane said before in advance of this game that he's got the roster down to somewhere in the 50s, which kind of validates the point that, there's going to be a lot of guys playing, but there's maybe 4 or 5 jobs that could potentially be on the line based on one more preseason game. A couple of positions or spots might be neck and neck, and they want to get one more extended look. And those guys, I would assume, are going to get a lot of playing time. But anyway, that aside, I got a couple preseason takeaways. We'll call them camp in preseason, pretty much since football started again. When it comes to this team, after watching them play twice and again, camp, the biggest thing for me, and I want to be careful here, and you know this, Joe, you know a lot of other podcasters who do talk Bills, a lot of people on Twitter. I think now I admit I'm a Bills fan. Of course. And everybody, again, unless you're brand new to the show, Joe is we call him a Bills watcher.
Yes.
He watches the team, follows the team, but he's not a fan. He is actually a Detroit Lions fan. Just want to throw that out there. I admit this. I got no problem with this. I'm a Bills fan. That said, when I get on this microphone and the camera's on and the recorder's on, I do my very best to speak objectively. I don't wear Bills shirts. I don't wear Bills hats. I try to be objective.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Now, my fandom does come through. I am openly admitting this. But for the most part, I try to keep my takes objective. That said, I preface this by saying this. There's no hole. There doesn't seem to be any real holes on this football team, man. I mean, the offensive line may be a little bit wishy-washy because Roger Saffold's 34 years old and he missed time after an accident, although he's back and he's looking pretty good. And Ryan Bates got a nice contract, but he's he only started like 5 games from them last year. And right tackle seems to be a little bit of a competition between Spencer Brown getting fully back and healthy and David Quinsonberry, the veteran. But anyway, maybe offensive line being a little wishy-washy aside, there is not, from top to bottom, a single flaw on the field, on paper, not even on paper, how they look on the field too. This is a team with I don't want to say without a single flaw, but this is a team with very, very few flaws right now. And I think we're seeing it, and we've even seen it in the preseason, meaningless or not. I mean, what they did against Denver, 6 drives, 6 touchdowns. And that was against a lot of Denver, or not all starters, but I don't know, Joe. This team just really, really looks good right now. There's not a lot of flaws on this football team. That's my biggest takeaway.
Does Jeremy White still does the preseason pledge, right? Or did he put it away now that the Bills are going to be a presumptive monster?
What was it? I don't even remember.
Take nothing serious from the preseason.
Okay. I mean, it is
nothing serious. Ask for no injuries. Just let
I agree. We argued about this a couple of weeks ago. I said I don't think they should play the starters. But yeah.
People I don't know, man. I just been like shaking my head about the Denver preseason game. People are just like, oh my God, they're
It was fun though.
Relax. It's preseason. Please.
I got to a point where I wanted them to punt. I wanted to see a punt, and they didn't punt till like a meaningless punt, like at the end of the game. Joe, this team on paper is stacked, bro.
They are. They are. I don't need to be hearing about it after some garbage preseason game. Just go out and smoke the Rams by 30. Do that. Like, show it to me then. You know, they might. I don't know, but
even if you take the preseason aside, just you look at the roster and you look at training camp and how these guys have looked. There's just I don't see positions again, except for offensive line. Could be a little bit wishy-washy. And then corner, which I'll get to Trey White in a second, but Trey White not being back yet, that's not good. And Jordan Micah Hyde had an injury scare. He's fine. Jordan Poyer's been out a couple weeks. Brandon Beane said if this was a regular season game this week, he probably could play, but they're not going to chance it. So that's another, which kind of leads to another takeaway of mine, preseason takeaway. They've been fortunate because they've completely avoided catastrophic injuries. Dallas just lost the key offensive lineman for the season, Tyrone Smith. The Jets almost lost their quarterback, Zach Wilson, he's only going to be out like 4 weeks now or so. But there's been a lot of significant injuries around the league at practice and training camp. And the Bills, in large part, except for Jordan Poyer, which again turned out to be not too serious, thank God, if you're a Bills fan, they've avoided bad injuries because I've always thought that the biggest thing that could derail the Bills this year is injuries, of course, but they've avoided that. That's another pretty big takeaway so far going into this Carolina game.
I'm glad nobody is worth
annoyed with this segment.
You're asking me to take preseason shit serious. I can't, man. even stupid Lions, like I'm watching Lions stuff and they're like, oh, the backup quarterback thing is still up for battle. Who gives a shit? Please. We're talking like, what's the Bills' big battle right now? Right tackle, maybe? Like
For a starting job, I would say probably right tackle. I think there's a couple positions where there's a legitimate battle. Tight end, I think it's become a legitimate battle behind Dawson Knox, of course.
Right. But again, we're talking second string tight end. Starting right tackle is the bigger deal.
Sure.
But like even Brown, like he didn't become the starter for what, like week 4 or 5 last year?
Yeah.
Like that, or was he
got forced in because of injuries. And now, ironically, it's him getting back from a back surgery procedure that's kind of slowed his progress, which has put a veteran, David Quisenberry, firmly in the mix. Now, to your preseason point, Joe, this is where I'm laughing because you're right. Case Keenum, we don't talk about all the good shit. Case Keenum looked like shit against the Colts, and all I heard was Matt Barkley's the number 2 and cut Case Keenum because he looked bad against the Colts.
But Case Keenum looked great in week 1, action. So who cares? That's what I mean. Like, okay, like what I don't even want to throw out these hypotheticals, but like, what if he doesn't have a great game against Carolina's F team? Like, I don't care, man. Like, if the thing with the backup quarterback thing with Buffalo is that if Allen gets hurt, you're fucked no matter what.
Sure.
The season's over. Like, season's over. I don't care who the backup is. They make me the backup.
I agree. Most teams, I think, have that same issue. If Patrick Mahomes goes down, see you later, Kansas City. Joey Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. That's a wrap for those. Matt Stafford. That's a wrap. Jared Goff.
No, Detroit's the only team that might get better if the starter goes out. David Blau for life, baby. But I mean, like, that's what I mean. Like, there's so much like, and it's part of the NFL. It's the whole NFL. It's not just a Buffalo thing. Yeah. It's the over dramatization, over analysis of every single thing. I mean, they made a big deal about Areza versus Hack here. Like, I mean, Jesus, a team that doesn't punt, their biggest story is the friggin' punter. Like, okay,
it was a really, really big story too. This whole camp, which was a little bit silly. You're right. I mean,
big story here, I guess, because that's the wealth of riches thing, though. Like,
I tweeted,
you got nothing else to care about, nothing else to pay attention to. It's like, oh, how about the punter? This one guy kicks it 1,000 miles. Like, all right.
During the Denver game, the only tweet I had during the whole game was, "You or I could be the punter."
Yeah, you're right.
You or I could be the fucking punter. That's the way this offense looks, man. And again, not even just the preseason. I'm talking about going back to the way they looked at the end of last regular season in the playoffs too.
Yep.
And then another thing with the Bills, which is almost comical at this point, when they're good or even when they're bad, they always seem to be so loaded with running backs that don't end up making the roster, and we're so high on them. This year, that rookie, Rasheed Blackshear, looks great right now. Undrafted rookie. Last year was Antonio Williams was going to be a world beater, and you had to have him on your 53 and this and that. It just does Duke Johnson, who's not going to make this football team. Mm-hmm. There's some good running backs who are not going to make this team. There is one takeaway.
It's a running team, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, you have 900 running backs. Who gives a shit? They're not running the ball. Allen's their runner. Like, that's the position they put themselves in.
I laugh because you are right, because I know how much you hate the preseason. You're Joe
like,
Buffalo wins.
It was like the end of last year when people were making a big deal. Oh, Singletary can run now. I was like, who cares? Doesn't matter. Like, okay, Allen doesn't have to run the ball. Great, cool. Like, that's the relief.
But there are two legitimate preseason takeaways that I have that have nothing to do with the games. Okay, There's two of them. One of them don't mean anything because who says what doesn't mean dick. But I'm just being honest with you. But what I've noticed is almost every person nationally that I've seen that is a name person that represents a major outlet, almost universally, everybody's picking the Bills to win the Super Bowl. And again, that don't mean nothing when the games start, but I do find it interesting that literally, I'm talking, you name an outlet, Sports Illustrated, Pro Football Talk, go on and on and on and on. They all, in fact, I have seen more people pick the Bills to win the Super Bowl than I've seen all the other 31 teams in the NFL combined to win the Super Bowl, man. The Bills are the pick around the league. They're the chic pick right now. They're the sexy pick to win it all. I don't ever remember that except for maybe 1991 and 92, years 2 and 3 of the Bills Super Bowl run. The first year came, I don't want to say out of nowhere because it was supposed to be their next step in their progression, which it was. But after they lost to the Giants, I remember everyone said the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. in year 2, which they lost to Washington, in year 3, Dallas. I remember that pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Year 4, everyone thought the Bills were done, and then they still went to the Super Bowl. But I can't remember the last time the Bills have been favored like this. I'm sure you've noticed this too. Everybody's picking the Bills to win the Super Bowl, just like almost everyone's picking Josh Allen to be MVP.
Predictions are fun because it's great conversation topics like we're doing.
Right.
I take them with a grain of salt always because whatever, it's prediction. It's fine. But that's the thing. Like, how do the Bills play being the target? How does because they are the target in the AFC.
They're the hunted. And
NFC, NFL wise, they're absolutely like nobody's taking a week off playing against them. Like that's the thing. Like that to me is the more interesting part for how this team handles itself, because I want to see how they respond to that, because they're not going to get you're not going to catch somebody sleeping.
Nope.
Break of the other. They'll catch bad teams eventually. Like, they're playing the NFC North this year. They're going to play 3 bad teams at least. The Jets are going to be bad. But the Jets always try to hulk up for, a half anyways. But but everybody else, like the rest of that schedule is tough. I mean, we looked at it before. The first half of that schedule is very mean, and there is some landmines all over the place with that first half.
First 7. Yeah.
So I mean, like that, but that's the thing I want to see. That's the part I want to see. I want to see, I don't know. I can't judge stuff off of week 1, although we are totally going to, because they're playing the Rams and playing the Super Bowl winners. Like that's how that works. But like, last year I remember they played Pittsburgh first week and we're just like, geez, they're going to roll them by 30 or 40. And then, shit happens. They lose because they played sloppy defense, bad special teams, bad offense. Like, that stuff happens, but it's going to be fascinating to watch how this team handles it. I just mean because, and they're used to everything being micro-analyzed, especially here, within Buffalo. But I want to see how it feels for them to have that happen to them on a national scale, because that's something. Even last year, they weren't really on that radar quite yet last year. Like they kind of were, because they played against Kansas City in the AFC title game. Like that automatically puts you there, but it was still like the Chiefs are the team. It wasn't that, Buffalo's right there with them. It was like, no, Kansas City's a team. You got to beat Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's, now the Kansas City lost to Cincinnati in the AFC title game. It's like, all right, well, they're kind of off everybody's mind. Nobody takes Cincinnati seriously, which, we've said is
we did a whole segment on that.
An unbelievable thing. But in Buffalo's case, like they're the team that everybody's going to be zeroed in on every week. Every talk program is going to be talking about it. If you're a content maker in Buffalo, like if you're an aggregator, Jesus, your head's going to be spinning, because every Sunday show, every preview show is going to be, there's going to be something on the Bills no matter what every week, especially because the first half of the season, because every game is going to be a monster one.
Yeah, they're the hunted, and they're going to get the best shot 17 times from other teams. Like you said, no one's sleeping on the Bills.
Nobody's looking ahead to another game when the Bills are on the schedule.
I semi-disagree.
Past Buffalo is like, well, we got a game with Miami next.
By the way, I semi-disagree with one of your takes. Mm-hmm. I don't think the NFC North is going to be that bad. I think Chicago is terrible. Green Bay's Green Bay. I actually think your Detroit Lions are going to be better than maybe you think they are.
Okay, they won 4 games last year.
I think they're going to be better this year, man. I think they're going to double that this year.
That's hard knocks.
I think Minnesota
stinks.
Sooner or later they're going to play up the expectations.
Kirk Cousins is a bum, and they're a team that centers around Dalvin Cook. Now they got a good receiver. Jefferson's good.
I love Justin Jefferson,
but he's got a bad quarterback throwing to him. So but it's a team that focuses on the running back, which we know in this league doesn't work. Friggin' Jerry Jones was talking about, like, we go as Ezekiel goes. Like, no, dude, you got friggin' Dak Prescott. Give him some receivers, moron. Like what are you talking about? Like, we go as the running back goes, idiot.
I do have one legitimate, and then I want to move on here and get to our draft and stuff. There is one take about the Bills that does involve the preseason that I do think is not something that you could just blow off. I actually think this is important. I'm going to circle back, and I'll go back to like a month or two ago. The biggest preseason takeaway, if you want to say the preseason games mean nothing, which you have a fair point to say that, but the biggest takeaway is that I ain't seen Trey White out there. That matters. All right. I mean, we were going back, and I remember going around mini camp. He's on schedule, this and that. And the question was, will Trey White make it back before week 1? Well, we've got the preseason has given us that answer, and that answer emphatically is no. Now it's going to be, does he miss the first 4 games, or does he not even come back possibly to week 7 or 8? That has probably been the biggest significant development in terms of the field by him not being on the field, because he is one of the best players. I mean, he's an all-pro corner here, and he's not even, we are literally, well, this drops on Friday, so we're 13 days away from the Bills opening the season, and Trey White's not even practicing yet, coming off an ACL, so he's going to be gone a month or so. So to me, that is the one big preseason takeaway that you could say, well, the games, even if they mean nothing, this does mean something.
Well, yes and no. Like, it means something because I think once that injury happened, everybody knew that, like, the first half, some part of the regular season was going to be in question. You know, whether it was going to be 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, whatever it is. Everybody knew that was going to be a factor. And if he was practicing at all, I think during camp or preseason, if there was even a chance of him playing a preseason game, that's a miraculous comeback, because, you know, you're a corner, you're doing a lot of running, you know, a lot of cuts, a lot of stuff like that. And, you know, ACL's big deal for all that stuff, especially doing the cuts. Like, that's a big deal. And if he was able to, you know, come back that fast, like that's like Wolverine stuff, man. Like that's that. But to me, I don't take that as such a big deal, just because I think that was already chalked up as a not a loss, but like as something that was already like, okay, we know we're not going to have him, so we'll just, you know, next step beyond that is what we'll take care of.
I think they were hopeful. You know, I know fans were, maybe a little bit of media, maybe the team.
Yeah, ACLs are no bullshit, man. Like, that's
it's hard. Dangerous, because going to that schedule, those first 7 games. Look, the Bills are going to be playing football in January. It would take Josh Allen getting hurt and or several injuries, if not
like a bus accident for them to
not make the playoffs. Right, for them to not be playing in January would take catastrophic things happening to them. That said, these first 7 games, yeah, they'll, even if they struggle out of the gate, they're going to, again, I still fully expect them to be playing in January. But no Trey White, and you got whether it's Kyrie Elam or hell, it might be Christian Benford. That's not Trey White out there with Dane Jackson. And the significant part of that is, let's just say the Bills go 4-3, or even 3-4 in those first 7. Ain't going to cost them a playoff spot. It's not, I don't think it's going to cost them their division, but what it might cost them is a top seed in the AFC when it's all said and done, which, hey, in a conference with Kansas City and Cincinnati and, you know, the Chargers in Baltimore, I want to be in Orchard Park if I'm a Bills fan right now at the end. So I do think Trey White, it matters more how the Bills are looking in January and how he's looking in November and December. I completely agree, but it's not meaningless. The opening stretch of games, they'll have ramifications at the end if they don't end up with that number 1 seed.
Oh no, I never said those opening games were meaningless.
No, not you, but the other people are not you, but people are kind of giving that indication. No, you've never said that.
Okay, yeah, but I tell you what though, if they start 3-4, every outlet is going to be on high red alert of this season's a disaster already.
Sure.
Like, if it gets even 4-3, people are going to freak the hell out, because you know, everybody was predicting this team's going to go 15-2, and it's like, well, I mean, that's, you know, it's kind of cowardly. Just say they'll go 17-0 at that point. You know, it's just you know, just don't beat around the bush on it. Just be like, all right, fine, they'll run the table. Like, great. Like, but I mean, you know, when the bar is set there, though, like, you know, you stumble out of the gates. Hell, even if they went 1-2 the first 3 games, there's gonna be a full blown freak out about that. Like, that is.
Let me refresh fans. Let me refresh fans' memories here. Their first 7 games, because we refer to 7 games a lot. You and I say it a lot. A lot of people say it, but they don't really go through the opponents, just so everybody knows. Their first 7 games, they're at the Rams, then they're at home for Monday Night Football against Tennessee, then they're at Miami, which I do not think is a gimme game by any means. Week 4, they're at Baltimore. Week 5, they're home against Pittsburgh. Week 6, they're at Kansas City. And then week 8, because they have a bye, week 7. Their 7th game is at home against the Packers on Sunday Night Football. that Pittsburgh game at home sounds like the only game on paper anyway that should be a relatively easy game for me. So just to refresh
that's a Mike
everybody,
Tomlin coach team. And those
right.
Steelers never lay down easy.
And they beat the Bills in Buffalo last year after all the hype. So again, those first 7 games, man, are really going to be important to the standings in the conference at the end of the year. Maybe not so much the division. Real quick, before we get to our starting 5 draft, I just want to gloss over this. Corey Proman from the Athletic, or whatever, but he has he did his NHL Pipelines, and for the second straight season, the Sabres are number 1 in his rankings. It was Detroit, New Jersey, Anaheim, and Ottawa rounding out the top 5. It doesn't really mean anything, I guess. Like I said, but at some point when you keep having you're number 1 on these, hopefully it's going to translate into something. I guess if you're not a good team, then I guess it's good to at least be near the top of the pipeline. I mean, could be worse. It could be a bad team who's like in the middle of the pack or near the bottom. I guess it's just another thing that kind of reinforces Sabres fans that better days hopefully are going to be ahead, right? I mean, there's not really much to add to that.
No, to me, like, again, rankings like this talks cheap. The proof is in how the payoff goes. I know Ted Nolan always said a lot of weird things when he was coaching here, but what he said about prospects, I always love it. And a lot of people don't like it because they just kind of roll their eyes at it. But he goes, prospects are great until they're suspects, but they're suspects until they hit the ice.
Sure,
prove it. It's something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but that, I mean, I 100% believe that. Like, but the way things shape up right now, it's very positive. It's exceedingly positive. Owen Power is the top of that list. He's going to be on the second pair of their defense. Right away at 19, 20 years old. Like, pretty awesome. Darlene 22. And he's the old, like one of the old guys on the blue line, which is crazy. And he, let's see how his season starts. Let's see if he's plays the way he did at the end of last year, all season this year. That would be a huge development for them. But it's those guys. It's Quinn, it's Peterka, it's Levi, or excuse me, Levy. I was corrected on. I got yelled at about saying Eric Portillo's name wrong. Devin Levy. I was told that's how it's supposed to be said, but he might pronounce it.
I didn't know that.
I was told by somebody who is from the Montreal area and knows his family. So I'll take their word for it, even though whatever. But that's besides the point. But like, but that's like, you've got all these guys in the high end of things. Like, things look really good for now, but proof's in the pudding. You got to be able to do it. You got to be able to perform. I think back a few years ago when people were sky high on Casey Biddlestat. Right now, it's just kind of like, all right, can he prove himself? Can he prove himself to be a guy that can be a guy here? Like, that's
right.
That's what happens sometimes with a lot of these guys. Like, this is a big year it's a big year for Quinn because a lot of people are going to remember that playoff performance with Rochester last year. We had no goals, looked kind of rough for most of the playoffs. Played really well in the last series that they were in, but we'll see how much that eats at him. Like, I know he had a rough first season with Rochester, and he came back gangbusters last year. So I expect him to come back even bigger from that this year. But we'll see. Those guys, the kids are going to get tested, man, because the way that they ran back basically the same team doesn't create a lot of space on the line charts. Doesn't create a lot of space in the roster. So these guys have got to really earn it and really show that they're going to take control of it.
I am excited about covering the team this year. I'm excited about talking about them. I mean, it wasn't too long ago where, I'm going to be honest with you, I've had you on the podcast for a while. I hated talking about, hated even talking about the Sabres, man. I used to dread segments. I would want to talk with you about literally anything else in the world except for when we got to the Sabres, because it was the same fucking shit about this team being terrible and Jack Eichel wanting out, and is he going to get traded? Is Sam Reinhart gone? I was over it. But there's something about this team right now, just makeup, that has me excited. You know what I wasn't excited about? What a good transition. All right, so starting 5. So a couple weeks ago, it's been a couple weeks now, our last starting 5 draft, we did best rivalries. All right. Joe won 76% of the vote, so more than 3-1. Joe took Yankees versus Red Sox. And again, this was best rivalries. Yankees versus Red Sox, Magic versus Bird, Red Wings versus Avalanche, Hamilton versus Burr, and Coke versus Pepsi. I couldn't even pull a quarter. I had the Jets versus the Sharks, referencing West Side Story. Biggie versus Tupac. This fucking pick here. The Greasers versus the Socias from The Outsiders, the movie in the book. Ali, Frazier, and Austin versus The Rock. I'm going to admit something here. All the polls we've ever done, ever, and I've lost by more than this, but of all the polls we've ever done, so we put these out on Friday at noon. And then, we both tweeted out, and then I'll retweet it once or twice. And I might quote Saturday. I'll quote tweet it. I'll retweet it just, because some people might not be around Twitter on Friday. So I want to make sure they see it. For the first time ever, I stopped retweeting this. I wanted it like Saturday morning. I did not retweet it. I did not quote tweet. I did nothing. I just wanted this poll to freaking go away, man. Because we usually get a decent amount of second day action. Because again, there's people who don't catch the show or see or go on Twitter that first day. It was embarrassing how bad the comments were for me. Now, the funny thing is this, is I think Biggie and Tupac, that was arguably to me, I think might have been the best actual pick of the draft overall. Magic versus Bird was awesome too. Those are the two that I really thought were great picks. And I think Ali versus Frazier was a pretty good pick too. But
absolutely,
the other three picks is just embarrassing. It was humiliating. I got ridiculed so fucking bad on social media, man. And because I always, every Friday, when I go into a restaurant that I go to every Friday, I always have a couple friends who are, what poll did you guys do this week? And then I'll run it down in the picks. I got laughed at immediately. Fictional, like all the real life rivalries, all these things, these countries who hate each other, these companies, these products, and you're picking fictional fucking, not once, and you only get 5 picks. So 40% of my picks were fictional rivalry, gang rivalries from movies and stories that were decades old, man. It was absolutely embarrassing. I want to move on from that. Disgraceful.
I believe I said 4 seconds after you picked the Outsiders one, I said, you've lost.
You did. And you were right.
When I have to ask you, okay, what's that from? And like, not to toot my own horn here, but I'm pretty educated and pretty knowledgeable on a lot of stuff. For me to be like, okay, who's that is a bad sign, is a very bad sign for you. Because like, I mean, the people that know, they know, but like, how many people know? And but like, I got to tell you, I get a very skewed view of how I think the results are going to go, because like because I mean, obviously you're the first person to put it out there. You're putting up the polls,
right?
And I think a lot of your very dedicated fans are always very eager to jump on me to be like, nah, Pat kicked your ass again. Like, I'm just looking at this. I'm like, I was like,
I take my victory laps like 6 minutes into the poll.
But also I was like, you're the people that are making Pat so delusional that like he thinks he's going to win these. I was like, you're part of the problem here. Like you gotta start burying him when he really screws up like this.
I knew I was buried. And typically when we put these polls out, I think we've been wrong a lot. There's been a lot of times where I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to be really close. And then it'd be a blowout. Or there's been times where we thought there'd be a blowout and they end up being close. Or I thought you would win by a lot. And then I actually end up pulling it out. And obviously more often than not, vice versa.
Well, that's why I've stopped guessing. But last week I felt.
But last one was a lock. Let's hope this one's better. This week we're doing best Disney characters. Don't really need to explain much more than that. All right. You got the first pick because actually I picked the West Side Story as my rivalry with the first overall pick, which again, not the greatest first overall pick ever.
No, it was not.
All right, well, you got the first pick here.
I don't like having first pick on this one, just because there's a zillion characters, and there's so many that are just awesome characters. But don't you have to go with the icon? Doesn't the icon have to go first? Like, I even though. And I'll say this, like, I'm taking Mickey Mouse first. I have to. But I'll say this about Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse ain't done shit in like 70 years. Okay. I know he's done like a lot, like there's been a lot of like these direct to video things with Mickey Mouse. What's the last thing Mickey Mouse ever done? Fantasia? Okay. Like what year was that? 1945? Okay, Mickey, get to work, pal. coasting on his name and his looks and all that. But I got to take him. Like,
you can't not.
You can't do Disney and not take friggin' Mickey Mouse first. Like, I hate that I have to, and I hate myself for having to take him. But if this were like a draft year, like if this were like an actual sport draft, I would be the guy that would be leaking information like, hey, this guy might want to trade out of first. This guy might want to be looking to accumulate picks later on in the draft, because 100% I would.
I want to throw it
because I don't want to have to take Mickey Mouse, but I have to.
I want to throw this out there too. Disney characters are definitely not my strong point, but I think this would be a fun category. I put this out a couple weeks ago. I asked people for suggestions because Jesus, man, once you get to like 55 of these, like which we've done, it gets a little bit difficult sometimes to come up with topics. Yes. This was one of them. So coming up, by the way, in future episodes, who knows when, but a couple of cool categories that I saw. Starting 5 one-hit wonders. That could be a fun one that we'll do. Best serials, sad songs, which I don't know if I want to be in a kind of melancholy mood on a podcast, but Sopranos supporting cast, meaning Sopranos picks, but not Tony Soprano after him. You know, like the supporting cast.
Avoiding our rule of whoever takes Tony wins.
Right, exactly. And then somebody did say this, and I do actually want to do this. And when we do it, I want to do it back to back. We remember one week, I think we did first name Chris. Remember, and neither of us really liked the way that turned out. It was kind of, but because of our names, you know, the best Joes or the best Patricks, I think maybe that could be interesting.
That's
we'll
really
see.
Self-serving, and I appreciate that.
So I think we could love a little bit of self-serving, man. All right, so you took Mickey Mouse. I got 2. I'm going with traditional ones too. Donald Duck has got to be my first pick, man. The Sailor Cat, the outfit.
That's who I would have traded down to get. Is Donald Duck.
You could have traded the sharp bow tie. Bad shit always happens to him too, Donald Duck, man. I love this voice.
Angry, constantly.
I'm not going to embarrass myself, but when I was a kid, I would try to talk like Donald Duck, and I used to try. I can never do it.
I'm not even going to try to do it right now.
I'm not.
I'll blow out the sound, and it'll sound terrible.
But I like Donald Duck, man. He was such a cool dummy. And speaking of, that's going to be my other pick, Goofy. One of my favorite voices ever when he talked. Yeah, perfect character to describe, like, you know, just him and his personality. Goofy. Love the fedora hat. And just a very unique character to Disney. Again, these are really old ones, and I really don't have much more that I could describe about them, but I just like them growing up a lot. And I'm in the same boat as you, by the way. If I had the first pick, you can't not take Mickey.
Right.
But I actually personally like Donald Duck better
than
Mickey. But you'd have to trade down. So anyway, Donald Duck and Goofy. Those are my next 2.
Right. This is like the people that was, looking back on the Darlene draft being like, oh, you can't, why'd they take Darlene first? They shouldn't have taken him. It was like, dude, whoever picked him first was taking him. Okay. Like there's no way around it. Like, I know you could probably say like 2 years later and be like, oh, I would have taken this guy. I would have better. Sure. Okay. Yeah.
This is where it starts to get interesting.
You do that at that time,
I think the draft starts here, man. I don't know about Goofy, but I know Donald and Mickey were 2 of the first 3 for sure. So now, to me, the draft starts now.
I don't want to crown you yet, but I think you're way ahead already. In my mind, anyways. We'll see how the rest of this goes. So.
Listen, I don't play well with the lead, just so you know that.
Don't start planning the parade yet. My next pick is gonna be Simba from The Lion King.
That was next on my list too.
I think.
Damn it.
Yeah, Simba's. I mean, Jesus, how do you not love Simba? Crying out loud, like it's the story, the whole thing. Like it's just one of the best glow ups in an animated movie. Like you can't go wrong.
I picked that in our 90s movies drafts, I believe. The Lion King. That was one of my movies. Sure you
did, yeah. And then you lost that poll.
Yeah, I did.
I don't know. It's weird how that happened. Anyways, Simba and. I'm gonna go with the Genie from Aladdin.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, listen. The other characters in Aladdin are super. Like that's another really good.
That's Robin Williams, right? The voice.
Yep.
Damn.
And but yeah, the Genie, like Robin Williams as a Genie, friggin' stole the show. He was so. I mean, it's Robin Williams. He's perfect. Like, how do you not say no?
All right. I'm laughing at myself. I don't know how this is going to go over. This is another old ass character. I don't really want to.
Do it.
I am. Jiminy Crickets. That's gonna be my next pick. He's the ultimate voice of reason, man. Most of the time Pinocchio would get in some shit because he didn't listen to Jimmy. He's a great character, which, by the way, some of these characters, like Disney shit's supposed to be, it's not supposed to be for 30, 40, 50-year-old adults. I don't really think this shit is geared for. Although,
I mean,
it kind of is actually. But it's supposed to teach kids stuff, man. And taught kids, about listening to the voice of reason. Kind of reminded me of my grandfather a little bit. Though my grandfather was kind of an asshole, and Jiminy Crickets was pretty cool.
Hear that, everybody? Jiminy Cricket, asshole.
I like Jiminy Cricket, and I'm just getting to a point where I'm getting silly, man. I can't help it though. I like Winnie the Pooh.
Nice.
Kind of dumb, always looking for honey. I like this calm and his like laid back demeanor. Always calmly found his solutions. And again, I kind of feel like it's a kid's character, man. It's not an adult character here. So I'm not feeling very good about these as they go on. To be fair, though, I still say Disney characters are pretty much top heavy, like the big names. And then after that, a lot of people are going to consider these reaches no matter who we pick. Anyway, all right. Jiminy Crickets, which is, I don't think that's going to go over well, and Winnie the Pooh.
Okay,
Jiminy Cricket. Why say crickets?
That's listen. You already said he's an asshole. He doesn't deserve.
That was my I call my grandfather an asshole, not Jiminy Crickets.
Oh man. See, this is where again, I'm like showing my age, so I'm just like kind of hovering around movies that I remember that came out when I was like teenage years. So Lion King falls into that. Like, I think so.
Mm-hmm.
It's around that age. But Jesus, I remember like growing up, we had Disney Channel growing up, my sister and I. So like that was, we grew up in a lot of like the old school characters, but once they started making more of the movies and everything, there was one character that they went whole ham, like going crazy with, just doing all kinds of stuff with him and using him to promote the movie, all this stuff. It's Sebastian.
Okay.
From The Little Mermaid, the crab, Sebastian
Crab. I know you're talking
about. For Christ's sake, I've seen that movie. I watched that movie maybe once, twice, tops. I could probably sing Under the Sea, like blindly, just being like, "Yep, nope, we're good. I got this." Like it's insane. It's absolutely insane that like that's even possible. Like it's disturbing to me that's the thing that I could possibly do is just start doing it, do the Caribbean affectations of the voice, the whole thing. Like it's stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough of the old people. We got to do a new one, right? Like there's got to be somebody from one of the new movies that's big, and sure enough there is, because for God's sake, Frozen was the biggest goddamn movie. Like sure. Like every kid loved it. Like I'd never watched it once, but I could probably, again, I could sing along to Let It Go. Again, never seen the movie once. Could probably sing along to the song.
I've seen the movie like 3 times.
Oh man, you're way ahead of me then. But yeah, but like,
what's her name?
I don't know, because I'm not picking her.
No,
because I'm picking Olaf, because Olaf's way cooler. Yeah. Like goofball snowman guy, hell yeah.
Yeah,
man.
that's a good one.
I'm down with that. Like, and again, like I said, I haven't watched the movie, but I've seen the clips and shit with it. Like, whatever. Like, I'm too old to be sitting around watching new Disney movies. Okay, let's put it that way. But like that stuff was unavoidable. It was if you're online for 10 minutes, well, that movie was around, just constant videos, like just that friggin' song everywhere. Idina Menzel's a fantastic singer, but Jesus Christ, the song, enough already. But anyways, Olaf is my pick.
I have the last pick here, and I'm going to tell you right now, I got 2 candidates, and I want to pick one of them. I think the reason why I'm not going to pick it is because I think if I pick this, I'm looking at the rest of I'm looking at Jiminy Cricket and Winnie the Pooh, and I get 10% of the vote if I pick this one. And so since it's kind of neck and neck, I'm going to pick someone who I think might help me.
Okay.
A little more modern, and that's Woody, the main character from the Toy Stories. Tom Hanks' voice made the character even better. Became friends with Buzz Lightyear, kind of changed him, kind of pricky for that. That's who I am picking. I'm going to tell you who I wanted to really pick. The evil queen from Snow White.
Oh,
that's who I wanted.
Maleficent.
She set a very high bar for villains. Going forward, she was literally going to kill Snow White just so that she could be the fairest of them all. You know what I'm saying? She would transform into one of the twisted old hags. She was kind of terrifying at the time as a kid watching those cartoons. So I wanted to.
Wait, I'm thinking of Sleeping Beauty. Sorry, you're talking the witch from Snow White, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the one I wanted to pick. Captain Hook was another one, and Tigger was another one that I liked, and Mulan.
Oh, Mulan. Yeah. Super.
Mulan was, I mean, literally pretending guys would get fight for. Yeah, man. Those are ones I wanted to pick.
You're gonna want predictions of how this is gonna go. I have no friggin' clue. I have no idea.
Me neither.
No idea. Just
the only thing I can predict.
Win, cool. If I lose, yeah, sure. Okay.
I can predict safely that people are going to add
Tinkerbell,
the guys that neither of us picked, and I'm sure there'll be some that neither of us even mentioned. Let me run these down as we get out of here. So Joe goes with Mickey Mouse, of course, Simba, the genie from Aladdin, Sebastian from Little Mermaid, and Olaf. I went with Donald Duck, Goofy, Jiminy Cricket, Winnie the Pooh, and Woody. I truly don't know how Jiminy Cricket's going to go over. I can't imagine it's going to go well, though. This might be close. You know what? I don't think this is going to be a best rivalry level blowout.
No, I don't think this shouldn't be a blowout. I mean, who knows? Who knows how this is going to go? I know Jiminy Cricket's got like some iconography to him. So like, yes, old character like was in one movie, but like did lots of other Disney shit. I think we might get killed about not having Tinkerbell though.
Could happen.
Tinkerbell's literally in everything that Disney does because the whole coming in and splash with the wand and Disney magic and all that shit. Like whatever, but.
Well,
I can live with it.
check out the Maidens Day podcast this Monday. I promise you, Joe and Lance Lazowski from the Buffalo News will not be talking about Disney characters.
I can confirm that, yes.
For an hour. Make sure you follow Joe on Twitter at Joe Yerdon. You catch links to his work with the Bleacher Report, McKean, and everything else that he's doing. Thanks as always, man. Good to have you back. This was I don't know. You know what? This was an interesting draft. I don't want to call it fun yet. We'll see how it plays out with the fans. But thanks for doing the pod. It's always fun having you on.
Absolutely, man. And it's remember the polls are only fun if you win them.